stream button and watch the studio. Public. All right, it is on in the studio.
All right, we'll be starting up the live stream momentarily. Hope you can join us in the YouTube world. I got some, we'll have some wide receiver talk and whatever questions you have. We'll be jumping on. Should be live here any minute now, so stand by for that. Been an interesting day already. Not a lot of news, but a few tidbits, a few minor injuries and things. We can touch on those as well. How do you feel? In case anyone missed it, Emil and John Laub did a Superflex draft last night. Went fast, painless. I think everyone accomplished their goals and felt pretty good about what they did. For the most part, how did you feel, Emil, after you were done with the draft?
Not bad. I think it was fun because there was, a lot of situations where you were planning on doing this, and then boom, a couple guys were taken. So then, you got to think quick and adjust your strategy. And I think it went well. That's when things can go wrong, and you end up weak at a position. So I think it went pretty well.
I think we are live now.
Beautiful.
Get some comments up here, get a few viewers in there, and we'll get the ball rolling. As always, we hope as you come piling in, all one of you so far, but there'll be more. We'll get
always takes a minute or two to get the gang to show up.
Yep. Oh man. You get the tweet out there. All right. Hello, Univ-Poke. I say it like that because I don't know how you would say that word if it's actually a word. Univ-Poke. Anyhow, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Thanks everyone for coming. Reminder, yeah, you know what? I sent that email, and I don't know when, 10-team half-point Superflex mock is what he's after. You want to put that in your notes?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
That's a pretty off the beaten path one, but maybe some people. Where do you play that? Univ-Poke? Is there a platform where you play that or you see that kind of configuration? University of Poker. Got it. Good call.
Fascinating.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hope you're enjoying these. This is our usual Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. Ask Me Anything setup, and we do the mock drafts usually on Tuesdays, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You're going to do one tomorrow, Emil? Is that correct?
Yep. I haven't decided quite what the time, but we will email and let everybody know.
Yeah, watch the email there, and he'll set up. I think John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar, will be joining in once again. Always good to have the scholar on board in anything you're doing. So if you have any questions, we'll answer anything you have, Fancy. So a lot of people do. Yeah, 10 teams play on Yahoo, MFL. Yeah, I remember like it was about a year or so ago. I guess I was talking to Matthew Berry, and he's basically said ESPN, 10 team is pretty much, they went to PPR, right? But 10 team was still the standard. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that play it. I prefer 12. Played probably more 14 than 10, probably more 16 than 10, or about the same amount. But there's room out there for everybody.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Maybe we'll do the 10-teamer tomorrow.
Well, you hear that, Univ-Poke? Yeah, the squeaky wheel might get the grease here. Anyhow, so in between and around your questions, we're going to talk a little wide receiver value. We kind of had this conversation about running backs last week, or was it earlier? It was last week, I think we did that. And just kind of run through the various tiers and the values and see where we're at on some of these guys that and some of the standouts in ADP are currently values are maybe a little overpriced. And I guess we should start that conversation at the top of the ranks. Emil, and so I know you have a guy you prefer up here, Tyreek Hill. You've been drafting a lot. I see him. So if we look at the top five, there's no surprise who it is. It's Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins. Some people have them in various orders. What is your order, Emil?
Yeah, I have Devontae Adams number 2, Tyreek Hill 3, then Julio, and then Hopkins is what I have.
Yeah, I think I think you could defend and make a defensible argument for any of these guys. I think I have Julio as my 3 just because it's such a pass-heavy offense. But Tyreek Hill, I guess we kind of think, last year he was injured. He still finished really well. But we kind of think that, that offense funnels through the running back and the tight end, and that Hill's kind of a little bit of a, I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but kind of a one-dimensional player, and that he's just speed. I think the people who cover the team on a daily basis have told me, Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride says Hill puts in a lot of work and wants to be known as a well-rounded receiver. So what are the numbers that you see? Is it as much about the offense, Emil, as it is about his play?
Yeah, it's just, he's going to get so many opportunities, and he can break balls, he can break runs, passes. And I think that really adds to him. PPR, actually, he's probably a little more valuable in half or non-PPR, but it's just, he does so well. I just have him as my number 3. Hopkins is worrisome to me. Julio's getting a little old, and sometimes he doesn't catch the touchdowns. And, maybe the youngster Calvin Ridley's going to take away more from him this year, because Calvin looked pretty good at the end of the year.
Yeah, Ridley had a fine season, by the way. I mean, just, there's 2 guys that I think we easily overlook is Calvin Ridley and Michael Gallup, kind of a guy that was coming on equally strong, missed 3 games, but had a huge, and he's maybe like the cheap version of Calvin Ridley, you might say. And we'll get to that tier of players. And I'm with you on DeAndre Hopkins. And I think a lot of what our ranking has been in the past has been, number 1, he's quarterback proof. He learned that from Andre Johnson. It's a necessity in Texas or in Houston, at least in the pre-Deshaun Watson days. But also, he was just a target monster, always has been. And I guess the only question going to Arizona, look, I'm not saying he's not going to be heavily targeted. Will he be as heavily targeted? That's my concern there. New home, new offense, new quarterback. I'm not saying he can't get right on the same page. Again, the quarterback proof card pretty much ensures him with Kyler Murray, probably not necessary with Kyler Murray. So I kind of get the feeling that people are dialing back at him, and that we may get value on him. I mean, certainly he's capable of being his regular self.
Well, in your opinion, he seemed to be he was having trouble getting open with the double coverage in Houston the last year or so.
Won't get that in Arizona.
Is Arizona, are they going to find creative ways to get him open a few more times a game, do you think?
Well, it's certainly with Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, Kenyon Drake in the mix. I mean, they have some other targets to draw attention away from him. I was just looking at his target share last year. It was 172 targets, which I believe was about 2nd in the league. Michael Thomas had 190 plus.
That's a lot of targets.
So, I mean, he's I just don't think he's going to get that volume. But and I say that, could it be 150? Absolutely. I mean, it's that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. I think we're all forgetting that Larry Fitzgerald probably can still play. And I get it, though. I mean, I've seen drafts where he goes undrafted quite often, right?
Mm-hmm.
His current ADP, Fitzgerald's current ADP, it might be rising a little bit. I think people are realizing, oh, wait, I should probably draft him instead of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's 14th round, so basically a freebie.
Yeah.
And the Rams are at 11 personnel. Which tight end is on the field? I'm going to go with Higbee right now. But and I just think we're going to go with the way the season finished last year. But that's I don't think we're going to see. I don't think we're not going to not see Gerald Everett in times, right? So
sure, we don't really know. We know Everett got hurt. We know Higbee played insane the second half of the season. With Everett back healthy, we really don't know what's going to happen. And I have Higbee, I think 6th or 7th in my tight ends. I've taken him a few times, but that may not happen. And
I think the better question is how much are they going to be in 11 versus in 12? And I think with Brandon Cooks gone, I mean, we're a lot of talk about Van Jefferson looking good, Josh Reynolds looking good, etc. So are we going to see a ton of 3 receiver sets, or might we see more 12 personnel? It's certainly possible where both of them are on the field. But I'm going to go. I'm going with Higbee as my default. That said, I'm not drafting Tyler Higbee a lot. Emil's investing in him more. I'm kind of avoiding that range of middle tight ends. If I miss out on the top tier, and I'm including Andrews and probably Zach Ertz in that top tier, assuming I get him as late as the 5th round, then I'm waiting until after that next tier is gone, and that includes Waller and Evan Ingram and Higbee and in a lot of cases Gronk and Hayden Hurst and Hunter Henry kind of at the low end of that. I'm kind of waiting until outside that and going with the upside guys later. And also there's some really high floor plays later, like Jack Doyle, easily overlooked, going very late in drafts. I know Emil drafted him in the Superflex League last night. And I just think, there's a tight end heavy offense, and he's the lead dog in that committee. And you saw once Eric Ebron went down last year, I think he was second on the team in targets. So,
yeah, and I think it's important to remember when you're formulating, if you have 5 teams you're in, 5 leagues you're in, 4, 6, 12, whatever it is, if you gotta mix it up a little. I've got Higbee a few times. I got Fant last night. I got Doyle. Especially with all the things going on at tight end with that late round, these potential players, it's good to mix it up. You don't take, if you have 5 leagues, I don't take Higbee in every league. You've got because there's other opportunities at tight end, you should mix it up in your drafts, in my opinion.
Question is are the Jets ranked too high at 15? I don't know if too high. I mean, once you're outside the top 12, I think you're taking your chances right there. But it's a fair point. Lost Jamal Adams, lost C.J. Mosley. So I see what you're saying. Again, still some disruptive playmakers, but certainly not as many as there were. And they were really counting on Mosley to do a lot. So that's maybe something we should probably look at.
We'll take a look at that.
I'll be fair. To be fair, I'm focused more on the other positions and probably don't pay as much attention to the defenses as I should, especially when we're those too big of moves. I had moved them down some on mine, but I should probably move them down more. Are there any wide receivers on San Francisco that we trust? No, not at the moment. I mean, I'll trust, George Kittle. He's my favorite wide receiver there. It's just that he plays tight end, but no, I mean, until Deebo Samuel's back, I think it's a mixed bag. Everybody's hurt right now. I mean, they just lost J.J. Nelson for a month, and they just brought him in because everyone else is hurting. But there's been talk that Dante Pettis has looked good. But, I mean, we saw last year where that got all of us, so we're all shying away. For me, there's whoever is the wide receiver 1 is the only one I'm interested in. So if Deebo Samuel makes it back week 1, I trust him, if he's playing. I don't know that he's for sure he's going to be back week 1, but he did start running, and I was a little surprised that, that they're pushing him that fast. So that's the guy to watch for me. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, could be it if there is no Deebo Samuel. Beyond that, I think you're taking your chances, and week to week it's going to be a different guy. Kendrick Bourne could show up, as he has in the past. And I think they're more like DFS, cheap DFS options than viable, redraft candidates, just because San Francisco is not looking to throw the ball that much. And when they do, it's going to other guys. So it's bundled a little bit. So no, the answer is no. Trust no one except Deebo. Dominic Conti wants to know, in a 2-quarterback league, who would you draft number 1 and 2? Well, we saw that mock last night. It was still Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. I think I would be locked in on Christian McCaffrey as number 1. I think at number 2, I'm starting to think about those top 2 quarterbacks myself, maybe over Barkley, but it's a fair debate. Emil, you care to chime in?
Yeah, I wouldn't draft a quarterback that early. There's too much secure value in the top 4 or 5 picks or so. If it's a 2-quarterback league, I mean, we noticed it's a perfect draft to look at from last night. You can get guys in the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th round. You could double up by then and still get 2 quality quarterbacks. So I don't think there's a real reason to, take one that high in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to. but I think it's the question is fair. For me, probably that 4th, 5th, or after that range of those top 4 running backs, 5 running backs now, maybe even 6, the Joe Mixon range. But it seems like in most of the drafts I've been in, there's been someone who's gone a little earlier on quarterback, and I end up getting that running back. I prefer those guys go in the second round, but I mean, you see that in regular redrafts, let alone 2 quarterback leagues. So it's a tough call. I do like to come out of the top 5 rounds myself with 2 quarterbacks, but we saw some great examples in the mock draft last night. If you want to go back to the Football Diehards, the channel here, and look at last night's draft, you'll see a little insight into how various strategies played out. People did it various ways. So, and I think it was pretty instructive. So, Dominic, if you get time, go check out that draft. It's a little less than an hour long, and you can kind of see how the quarterback
fast forward too.
Yeah, and you can kind of see how the quarterbacks played out in the first half hour or so as well. Andrew Leach also wanting to know, any Washington running back worth drafting? Yes, at their current price. I don't think Adrian Peterson's I mean, most of them are freebies. Antonio Gibson is the only one that's going, I think, in the single-digit rounds right now. I mean, he's probably the one I'm avoiding because I don't know what the hell he's going to do. Maybe it's great. But the other guys are coming much later, and I think for me, it's more like I'm most interested in Adrian Peterson, like in the 10th round. I mean, just to give you a floor player at that point, a guy you think will get workload for a while. And I think he will for a while. We'll see what Bryce Love does.
By the way, is that the Andrew Leach who is a high-stakes player? I recognize that name.
Interesting. Andrew Leach in here looking to spend the money. No. But, yeah, it's just, to me, that's the problem right now is everyone seems to be on Antonio Gibson, who's a little beat up right now, by the way, walking around with a limp. He's working through it, but so I'm looking at current ADP, and Gibson is going in 7th round. That's risen from the 8th, I think, last time I looked. And Peterson is still going in round 10. I'm looking here. Adrian Peterson, is he risen some? No, but it's round 10, 10:08. So, look, part of this is roster construction. And if you were that Andrew, you know this, building in risk within your position groups and managing and mitigating same at that point. I mean, if you have really solid guys early in that draft and say, man, maybe that Antonio Gibson could be a league winner, he could come on and get something done, then maybe that's worthwhile. But, I think if you're looking for a floor player, I'd probably rather have Peterson. Beyond that, Bryce Love is free. J.D. McKissick, free. Sounds like some of these guys are going to have roles. So, and I saw reporting today saying Bryce Love, after all the talk for the last 2 weeks that he's like looking really good as number 2, isn't a lock to make the roster. So, there you have that. We'll see. I think he will make the roster, but they've got a lot of running backs, man. Peyton Barber might be the odd man out. Timothy Miller wants to say, do you think Detroit will A, run the ball, B, try to run the ball, C, abandon the run and let Stafford sing it as usual? I'm guessing the D won't be too good. Again, so I'm thinking the D portion of this is correct, so is the C. But, surely they're going to try to run the ball and then C, abandon that and let Stafford sling it. That's my guess. That's what my expectation.
I agree with that. And, that's the nice thing about Swift. If Swift can actually be part of that third down passing attack, that could maybe give him a little bigger floor because, he's got these rookies that have running backs that have a chance. And, it doesn't always work out. Now maybe that's going to help him.
Yeah, he's been beat up in practice, hasn't been practicing. Kerryon Johnson's been he's working now, wearing a knee brace. Beyond that, I think it's pretty hit and miss. So, yeah, my expectations are not high for this offense and certainly not for the defense. So I'm guessing there'll be lots of running. Drum Dog 100, do you see a wide receiver that was the second best on a team last year, surprising us becoming the team's top receiver? I mentioned Michael Gallup. I'm not saying he will do that, but I'm saying he's probably capable of doing that. Missed 3 games and still was, super highly ranked. Where he finished last year? Michael Gallup was the wide receiver 20 in our final ranking. So
that was really high. Well, where's he going?
Right, and he missed again. He missed 3 games. He had a knee injury. So, we've seen some inconsistency from Amari Cooper. I'm starting to call him the Amari coaster. Get on, take the ride, expect some low points. But, if I'm drafting right now, you look at the ADP, I'm kind of shying away from Cooper and diving in on Gallup, for that reason. And CeeDee Lamb's a bit of a wild card there. I'm not going to say that he can't do something. I'm a little shy of rookie receivers, but all the talk has been very complimentary. He's a super playmaker. So there's that. I'm looking for Gallup so ADP currently has Cooper going 403, 14th wide receiver off the board. And Gallup, is he rising? Not that much. It's going off in round 7 as wide receiver 31. So you're gaining a little value there. CeeDee Lamb going off in round 8. So I'm fine driving down the middle lane on that one and taking Gallup at that price. And again, as I was mentioning with Andrew's question about the running backs, a lot of this has to do with roster construction, how your risk is spread out over the course of your roster and within the position groups. And if you need, you went with some high-end guys that are a little more volatile, maybe you went with Tyreek Hill and you're not trusting that catch total, right? You don't think he's going to get that high number. Maybe that's where you focus a little bit more on the upside or the high floor play, Gallup, a little later in your draft. So
there's a few guys we talked about before. Calvin Ridley's a second-year guy, but he's already up there. Neil Harry from New England, 15 catches last year? Yeah. Super low ADP.
Yeah, finally back on the practice field. I was getting a little worried, but he's a guy I'd been targeting in a lot of best balls because for the reasons you're about to explain, Emil.
Well, it's just he's a big guy, a first-round draft pick last year. He didn't get a lot of opportunities last year. I don't really know why, but again, I love the question because that's what I'm looking for and everybody's looking for. Running backs, receivers, etc., and tight ends big time. Who came in and, had to sit back and learn for whatever reason. We forget about those guys. We start thinking, oh my gosh, this guy just doesn't have it or whatever. There's going to be some of these guys that are going to really jump up. And Neil Harry, you can get him so late, he may be pretty easy to target. You really got to find these guys. I kind of like, my mind's going on me, the guy for the Giants that I, for some reason, love.
Oh, Darius Slayton?
Yeah, Slayton. And I like him a lot because I'm worried about Shepard getting hurt again because he had the concussions. But he's another guy that, you can get fairly decent price.
Get him in about round 8 or 9 right now. Shepard's going in round 10, which I find interesting, that he's the cheaper component. Golden Tate cheaper still. Any given week, anyone could be wide receiver 1 right now. There's, some reporting out today talking about how Shepard has pretty much firmly established himself as the wide receiver 1. So it is interesting to see. Did I have that right? It's
maybe
Slayton.
People are worried about the injury issue.
Very possible. Well, just like N'Keal Harry is not on the ADP right now, or not in the top 70 anyway, and I think it's because he spent about a week injured. He's back to practice now. We'll see if he climbs. Sterling Shepard is at 11. Slayton is at round 10. So neither of them are costing you a ton. So, if you have a feeling either way, feel free on that. And it's the same with Harry. When they're giving the guy away, it makes it a little easier to take a chance on him. I like him for the same reasons Emil does, but my expectations are, going to be moderate there. I think the thing that when I think about it, Cam Newton, you think back to the Panthers, they drafted a bunch of basketball players, basically. Devin Funchess, Kelvin Benjamin, Brandon LaFell, these big catch radius guys. I'm guessing there's a reason for that. Not saying Cam can't hit the running back like he did with McCaffrey or, anyone else, Julian Edelman, but they did like those big catch radius guys. So let's see, Thomas E. in our latest PPR mock draft, someone took Deebo Samuel 6th or 7th round, I think, at the end of June. He had an injury making him out 12 to 16 weeks. He can miss the first 8 weeks. Has his injury status improved? I don't know that it's improved. What's changed, though, is Kyle Shanahan keeps saying he's optimistic about week 1. What does optimistic mean? I don't know. What is Kyle Shanahan's level of trust with me? Very low. I know that the GM, John Lynch, said right after the injury that he was going to miss some weeks. My guess is, unless there's like some, and as I stated a little earlier, he has started running and they're ramping up his work in practice, but he had the surgery the last week of June. So as you said, I'd heard 10 to 16 weeks. So if he opened camp on PUP, it wouldn't surprise me. And if he does that, he misses 6 games. Then they have a 3-week window to get him back. At that 6th, 7th round price tag, I want a little more certainty. Well, how about you?
Yeah, you're having to give a lot to get him. I think there's other ways to go. And, when a coach comes out and says things like that, there's a lot of reasons why he may say that. He may be telling us the truth. He may be trying to be optimistic. Or maybe he's trying to make a trade with another team to get a decent receiver to get them through, and he doesn't want to play his cards. He wants to make it sound like everything's cool. So there's a lot of reasons for a coach to say that, and I wouldn't take it one way or the other.
And Jerron Brown and J.J. Nelson, who got hurt today. Brandon Ayuk's a little beat up. Sounds like a hamstring will be a couple weeks. So, I don't have a lot of faith in that. And as I said, I mean, beyond the wide receiver one there, I'm not greatly interested, and that's going to be Deebo Samuel. I just don't want to pay that price, so I'm not getting him.
Wait on him and see if he falls in your draft. Maybe in your particular draft, it's the 8th, 9th round, and you may be able to decide whether you want him at that point.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable approach as well. Nike J24, keeper out of these: Jake, James Conner, Duke Johnson, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Cooks, Drew Brees, or Prescott. I don't know if there's any values associated with these, but assuming there's not, I would take Conner easily out of this group. If there are values,
Prescott, depending on the structure of the league and what else is available at quarterback.
Yeah, I would probably. Yeah, and I'm assuming it's a 12 team, but maybe fill in a little more detail there, and we could give you a little better news. Brian Larkin wants to know about David Montgomery and what role we see for A.J. Dillon. David Montgomery, it's a groin injury, 2 to 4 weeks is what they're saying, so he could be back week 1. He might miss a couple games. So we don't know who the early down back is going to be. Artavis Pierce is a guy that suddenly popped on the radar today. Ryan Nall is a guy they also have. Cordero Patterson has been working in the running backs room, but expecting him to handle a between the tackles role seems, like a bit of a reach to me. And same with Tariq Cohen. So, I don't know that I'd be chasing any of the guys that might fill in for him. But if it's early in the season and you can make moves, I guess that's one we'll watch in the next week or so, whether Pierce is getting a little more run over Nall. And on A.J. Dillon, probably enough of a goal line. I mean, get enough goal line carries to irritate the hell out of Aaron Jones owners, because even if it's one, it's going to irritate the hell out of Aaron Jones owners. So I don't have a lot of feel. I mean, we've got Aaron Jones going into the final year of a contract. Do they just run the hell out of him and see where it goes? I mean, this one's tough for me. The people who cover the team closely say it's going to be a secondary role and maybe a specialty role near the goal line. Aaron Jones, it turns out, was a pretty good scorer last year. So, Emil, is A.J. Dillon keeping you from drafting Aaron Jones?
Not really. I've kind of devalued Jones's 19 touchdowns, and I've got him in an area where I'll take him if he's there. A.J. Dillon has to prove himself early in the year. Maybe they'll give him some, goal line carries, and if he doesn't make a mistake, fumble the ball, he's got to prove that he's solid in those areas to continue to get those important touches down at the goal line. So if he fumbles a little bit or has a little trouble, you're not going to see him much at the goal line until he proves himself in practice.
I'm going to recount the story, though, because I think this says something about A.J. Dillon, who is a very thick man, and so thick that teammates have commented at how unusual it is seeing a man that big, just when he walks through the locker room, the way he carries himself. And Matt LaFleur has said, this is a quote, "I've never seen a running back like him." And I have to remind people when he says that he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee with Derrick Henry as his running back. So that says something about A.J. Dillon. A little shorter and a little stockier.
Well, the potential's there. The concern is there. And you've got to decide, is he really going to be ready? Is he going to be ready to do that? Because if he fumbles the ball and has some troubles like that, doesn't hit the holes right, his share is going to reduce.
Yeah, it turns out pass protection is going to be a big deal too, because Jordan Love sucks so far. So there's that. They need to keep Aaron Rodgers in the locked and upright position. All right, let's see. Stu Dub wants to know, in a deep draft, 18-round PPR with very seasoned players playing for many years, in round 15, 18, dart throws you like, running back or wide receiver, running back in that range. If Josh Kelly in a savvy league, I think Joshua Kelly in the Chargers is rising a little bit. Jerick McKinnon's starting to grow on me as a bit of a role player. George Kittle has a little bit of some muscle tightness. All right. Good Lord, San Francisco. Hate it when the news breaks. But yeah, so I guess Jerick McKinnon is a guy I've been watching, and if there is no George Kittle, that would enhance his role. I'm just kidding. There is going to be just they're being very cautious with it. It sounds like all the testing is good, just nothing pulled or strained, just tightness. So, all right, I will not panic over that. All my George Kittle shares. I also like a running back or a wide receiver. There's a handful of guys that I'm throwing late round flyers at, and I mean, if Robbie Anderson makes it that far, I think his connection with Matt Rule makes him of interest. Teddy Bridgewater, not exactly a huge deep thrower, but he did it some in New Orleans last year, and I think Joe Brady's on board with that kind of thing. So him, I like Steven Sims Jr. a little bit.
How about the Jacksonville rookie receiver? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Laviska Shenault has been a guy that's rising on the radar because kind of an all-around role, an interesting, kind of jack of all trades guy, a physical specimen apparently, like you rarely see. Kind of that combination running back wide receiver. Preston Williams,
the running back for Carolina, Mike Davis, super late as a backup.
Yeah, I might throw some flyers, a little buzz growing for Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equinemius St. Brown. If I'm looking at the full list of wide receivers, there's a handful of guys I tend to end up throwing the darts at. And I go through in kind of waves. So let me look at my latest best ball and kind of see what I've been looking at. Because it is, I always like to have a bunch of those guys handy that I go, oh, this guy. Look, Corey Davis has been going crazy late in drafts, right? I think that's a fair dart toss, a guy with, I want to maybe get the, pay for the role. I know he hasn't done much. Dontrell Inman's a guy that's going to be way overlooked in Washington for the football team's wide receiver 2. I think, if you're looking at rookies, Brian Edwards is probably going to go very late. People are going to be overlooking.
Is Campbell worth a shot in your mind?
Sure. I think he's going higher than that. I was looking at ADP. Maybe he is not. Campbell I saw going in. There's a guy Emil and I both love that's probably a little before then. I'm trying to keep it after 15th round. He's going in the 14th. And I guess half those guys I mentioned are going in the 14th. But, I mean, Larry Fitzgerald that late is crazy to me. And there was Alshon Jeffrey's another guy that, if you're looking for a guy that could end up as a wide receiver 1 for his team, but it's going in around 14, 15, that's a fair price also. So those are a handful of guys there. There's some other running backs I'm throwing some darts at. Malcolm Brown is going way later than he should for a guy that may be the starter for the first part of the season and for the Rams. Chase Edmonds and Eno Benjamin, both I'm throwing flyers at for Arizona behind. If I miss out on Edmonds, I'm not afraid to go after, Benjamin. Yeah, I figured, if you're in with savvy leagues, dude, I'm saying, someone went into, Paris Campbell went into 12. Some of these guys are going to be a little tougher. Mark Spafford wants to know, will Tony Pollard have an expanded role cutting into Zeke's touches? Simple answer is no, as long as Zeke is healthy. So in Nike J24 threw it in a little bit more information. 12-team, 2-keeper league. Barkley's his other keeper. Usually, running back usually gets more attention. So PPR. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stick with James Conner. I think he'll be able to grab a quarterback in the 12-team league. I love Dak Prescott, but I think, just all things being equal, I'm drafting Conner ahead of him. But I wouldn't talk you out of Prescott if that's the direction you went. I think he's going to have a really good season. Your thoughts, Emil?
I agree. If I had the history of the league, because it'd really be cool to have Prescott on your team. But, if you got 2 solid running backs like that, it's hard to argue with that.
So it is hamstring tightness for Mr. Kittle.
He's going to get the first 6. That's a different. No, he's going to get one of the first 6 picks too, because he said he finished in the bottom 6. So J24 is going to also get a pick there, which will really help his team. Yeah,
that's worked. So yeah, on those late round guys, that's why I was kind of leery about throwing too many out there, because I'm thinking, yeah, Connor's pretty solid, but I'm thinking if it's a savvy guys who have played a long time, it's going to make it a little tougher. Brittany Coleman has the PPAR draft tomorrow. She's drafting 4th, leaning Cook, but wondering with the holdout talk I heard, was wondering if it's safer to go with Kamara or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There is no holdout. It's done. It was never going to happen. The rules have changed a little bit this year, so it kind of made it cost prohibitive for him to do that. So they were continuing contract talks. They broke off. He's set to play as usual. And as I say, there's no holdout. It's because it's like a $50,000 a day fine, which is now enforced. In the past, they could forgive those fines. They're no longer allowed to forgive them. But also, he loses his year of accrued free agency, meaning by holding out, he essentially limits his salary next year to $5 million as a restricted free agent, 5 or 6. This way, if he plays on this year's contract, the worst case scenario for him is he gets franchise tagged at a much higher rate. And best case scenario is he's free, gets a new deal from the Vikings, or he's free to sign with whoever. So I'm drafting him fourth. He's fourth on my rankings, locked in. And I say that saying Kamara or Edwards-Helaire are both fine picks as well. So, go with your gut on this one. If you think it's a worry or you have concerns about Cook, go after that. I have zero concerns about Cook because I'm really drafting Gary Kubiak and his long history of successful running backs. Any thoughts there, Emil?
Yeah, I know how it is when you get frustrated. We get frustrated when people are talking, holding out, and you just start getting that feeling like, is this guy really prepared to play? So I would ignore all that and just look at those 3 players and decide which one you think you want, and ignore all that talk. Try and clear the mind of that negativity, and then make your decision on those 3 guys with logic.
Yeah, and so another guy that you're probably going to hear this talk about too is Joe Mixon, who is pretty much in the same boat. I mean, he wants a new contract. He may get one. He hasn't been practicing this week. They're talking about migraines. We'll see about that. Might be contractitis, but and that's what you're seeing for players. By the way, their players aren't holding out; they're holding in. They're sticking around. They're just not practicing. We saw that with Melvin Ingram for the Chargers. Did the same thing, and they adjusted his contract. Would like to see him. No, Mixon is going up in my rankings. Mixon is my running back 6, ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I'm locked in. I talked to Jay Morrison from The Athletic last weekend, who basically confirmed everything I already think about Mixon, which is if you look at the usage down the stretch last year, the second half of the season, please do, where he was the best running back in the league, not named Derrick Henry or Miles Sanders, on a team that was playing from behind every single week. It still got the ball and still got the yardage. So, yeah, I'm all in on Mixon, maybe to my own detriment at that high. I mean, it'd be easy to sit here and say, oh, yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a sexy pick, or, whoever. But I'm going with Mixon because, remember, he did it without the great offensive line. They'll get Jonah Williams back. They've got more around him with Joe Burrow, hopefully A.J. Green, hopefully some positive game scripts, but their defense also still sucks. So they'll be needing some offense. So, it's a nuanced argument I make, but no, he's not going down in my rankings because of the migraines today, the talk of the contract issues, or the concerns that the Bengals are horrible. So there. I guess I planted my flag. I really have, man. I might be getting irrational to the point of irrationality having a number 6. You can get them later in your draft, so your mileage may vary. Emil, just getting back to the wide receivers, I think some of the guys that are a little bit, that are a little harder to divine this next tier, we talked about the top 5, but like Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, and Allen Robinson are the next 5. Love them all, but we have 2 guys from the same team in there. Is the cheaper option the right option?
Wow, it's a tough one. That is a worry that we have 2 players in the same scenario. I think you're right. I think that going the cheaper option may work there. Golladay is interesting because you probably can get him just a little later.
Right, we talked about it with Slayton and Sterling Shepard and even Golden Tate if you want to throw those pieces in there. And honestly, right now, I mean, I talk about this every time, but I just think A.J. Green is going ridiculously low. Tyler Boyd's going after him, but you have 609 and 708 for Green and Boyd. This one might be a simple, talking yourself into it based on roster construction as well. Like if you can afford a little risk, you go with Green because he's coming off the injury issues. I'm injury agnostic. Not playing that game. I'm looking at the 25% target share almost every single season as a wide receiver one, except the last 2 years, and a better quarterback. But, you could buy the cheaper component there and still get a pretty good player in Tyler Boyd. So those are things to watch. Just like Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks right now, Emil, are going, 6'11 and 708. They both have histories of not holding up over the course of the season. They're both in ideal situations, though, in Houston with DeAndre Hopkins out. Do you have a preference there?
Wow. I like Fuller. I just love that potential, even though he's been hurt so much. And, you know, what the beauty is, if you're trying to draft Fuller and he slips out of your fingers and you really want somebody in that offense, then wait a round or two and take Cooks. So
yes, if you're all wondering why I'm distracted right now, it's because this is how we make the sausage. I am writing an update about George Kittle to post on the website.
Oh, cool.
Because that's super important to us and super important to you as a subscriber. And if you're not subscribing, we need you to go to footballdiehards.com/free trial and get all the information we have available there, including breaking news, rankings, cheat sheets, tools, all the things you need to get along. So,
by the way, Todd Ullman just jokingly said that Fuller is due to have a full year, LOL. And just earlier, Stu Dubb was talking about late round picks, and we mentioned Paris Campbell. He said he went in the 12th round in his league. I have never seen that guy get close to the 12th round. Matter of fact, most drafts he's not even drafted. Maybe they're 16, 17 round drafts. So that's incredible. That is hilarious. So, Todd, if you have a chance to retype in, are you staying away from Fuller? Are you not accepting that? I mean, because you're going to have to give up. What are we giving up now? 8th round pick, roughly, early 8th round pick.
Late 6th.
I'm sorry?
Late 6th.
Is what you're seeing on Fuller?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he must be moving up, and my stuff may be lagging. He says he drafts Fuller.
I draft Fuller like crazy.
What round, Todd, are you drafting Fuller in? He just doesn't reach up. So if he comes to him, he's talking the 7th round. So if Fuller gets him in the 7th, he'll take him. And I like that strategy. You've got a Mendoza line. And Todd's saying that the 7th round is kind of the last good round for running backs. So he wants to make sure and get his running backs. And if Fuller goes before that, he's gone with him.
Yes, I think what I'm finding is I'm going the running backs earlier because I think that whole range of value, Todd, from about the 5th round, late 4th, 5th round, through the 6th round, into the 8th round is phenomenal. So that's led me to hammering the running backs earlier and focusing on that range of wide receivers. When are you getting your running backs, Todd?
Yeah, Todd here just said he meant wide receivers into the 7th, not the running backs.
Yeah, okay.
Consistent with what you just said. Interesting. I mean, this is all about, obviously if Fuller was a secure guy, he'd be going in the 3rd round. You're trying to find this value, and it's scary when a guy's been hurt that much. But on the other hand, the opportunity for him to have a monster year is there. So it's a
something we talk about a lot here, and we've talked about it over and over. And I agree with Todd. Running back early teams, I feel so. Even like 3 in a row. I'm not adverse to going 3 running backs, Mark Andrews, Dak Prescott, and then dive into the wide receiver pool. I have to get some guys hit. I have to have some hits there. I need some of those Will Fullers to stay healthy, or Devontae Parker, or Marquise Brown, or somewhere in that range to come through. But there we have it. Todd's getting lots of Fournette, Bell, and Akers. Interesting.
Fournette, Bell, and Akers, and he just said he likes to go 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you and I have been kind of talking about trying to get 2 decent running backs relatively early because, there's only so many running backs that start in the NFL that are decent. Let's say there's 20 or 24 or 30, where receivers, you can get the second receiver. You can get a lot of receivers later in the draft that will produce well for you. So that's kind of interesting. He has now said something. No, that's somebody else. Go ahead. I'm babbling.
All right. No. And by the way, where do you hear love has been bad at Packers camp? I hear it everywhere. Anyone who's covering the team on a daily basis says he's struggling and that, the number 2 job is by no means assured for him this year. And I talked to Rob Demoski from ESPN about 2 weeks ago about this. And he just basically said, look, the offseason, he hasn't had time to work in the program. I know they're listing him still as the number 2 right now, but I've heard Tim Boyle has looked by far better. But Love is going to be a bit of a work in progress. And Domofsky thought that just this unusual season and the lack of preseason time and off-season workouts kind of sets him back to like a 2 years from now. So third year kind of guy, he thinks they're going to be, they're going to have to rely on Rodgers until then. And that makes perfect sense. So given the circumstances, right? So that's where I heard that. And I'm just now hearing, came in on my sleeper app. Connor Hughes from The Athletic thinks that Frank Gore has been the most productive back in camp, or is reporting that, which
incredible.
I like to quote our friend Marcus Grant on this one, goes on running endlessly. That's the acronym for Gore. Interesting stuff there. All right. Other questions here. Where did you hear? Okay. Is Eckler a one-hit wonder? I'd like to think he's not, but I could easily see that happening. The change of quarterback, if for no other reason that, and it was so super productive last year. I mean, he did not drop a pass. He caught 92 of 92 targets last year. And I'm not saying he's going to start dropping a bunch of passes or struggle, but good Lord, I mean, that he was super efficient. The yardage, but some of that was due to a pass rush that forced Phillip Rivers to dump off. Phillip Rivers' level of trust in him, looking at him, you could just see him, locking in on him in key situations. And so, I'm concerned that he's going to produce at that same level. That said, I still have a ton of shares of Austin Eckler, especially when I'm getting him in the second round at PPR. And if I'm drafting late, in the first round and I'm getting a running back, maybe towards the last 4 picks or so of that first round, coming back around and getting Fabs thinks he's catching 100 because that's his Fab's buddy. Fabs thinks all his buddies are catching 100. That's me. And he might catch 100, right? I mean, it's totally within the realm of possibility. Tyrod Taylor, more of a deep ball thrower, though, so we'll see.
Well, he could hurt. I mean, Rivers is an excellent, short yardage. He's an excellent passer in general. Can Taylor get him those targets as well? Can he throw the ball as well as Rivers? If he comes down a little, but he gets a full season in, he's still pretty darn valuable, and a second rounder, late second rounder would be probably a good pick. But new chemistry, things could change.
Right, and also, though, part of this is by design. I mean, it wasn't an accident that Eckler was on the field as much as he was on the field, or that they were, I mean, some of those passes, I mean, he's in the progression, right? It's part of the package. So I get that, and Anthony Lynn's a running backs guy. So, as Fabs will tell you, Eckler is in crazy, phenomenal physical condition, but he is a smaller guy. But, man, the workouts this guy goes through are nuts. Rob Lenahan says Michael Pittman with Indy seems to be the type of receivers Rivers would love, according to all the tight ends he's ever thrown to. And Michael Williams, yes, I would agree with that. And I like Pittman a little bit. I don't know about this year, but I think maybe just, I'm always looking for the different piece. And Pittman is the 6'4", 200-plus pound guy that they don't really have, right? He's that big physical guy. Like, I think Antonio Gandy Golden in Washington is that. I don't think he's there yet, though. I think Pittman's ahead of him in terms of where he is in this offense. But I'm always looking for that different piece. And Todd Ullman is right about Frank Gore. Just an irritant at this point of his career.
Yes, I totally agree.
All right, so please keep the questions coming in the comments. Love having the conversation.
I wanted to mention real quick while we have a quick break here is, Ullman's talking about drafting 3 running backs in the first 5 picks, and every year is different. If you've got a sleeper that, you really believe in, that you can get in the 6th round or 7th round at running back, and you really think he can be a running back too, then you can address that strategy. I remember back in 2015, Atlanta, Devontae Freeman had a huge year, and I had drafted him in a high-stakes league. I got him in the 7th round, and he was my number 2 running back, and he turned out to be the number running back that year in the league. That doesn't happen a lot. I didn't expect him to be the number 1 running back, but I was hoping he was going to be productive, and I spent a 7th round on him. So you can make those decisions, but sometimes you don't have somebody you feel that comfortable in, and you've got to take running backs earlier.
Yeah, I think so something we talk about, and you'll hear this phrase, we use it a lot, game winners, right? Todd Ullman knows this. A lot of you know this. Guys that you're drafting late. And Will Fuller, I could go through the numbers, but if you put his last 16 games with at least 7 targets in a row and turned it into a season, that season would have been wide receiver 7 last year. So, I mean, to think that he can remain on the field 16 games seem like a reach. Maybe. If he does, though, you're going to get fantastic production in the 6th round. If AJ Green turns back into AJ Green and you're drafting him in the 6th or 7th round, you might have a league winner there. You're going to have a second wide receiver 1. If Devontae Parker produces at the level he produced last year and you get him in the 6th round, he might be a league winner. If Joshua Kelly, you get in the 12th round or 14th round, turns into the Melvin Gordon component ahead of Justin Jackson, and you got him in the 14th round, you have a league winner. Those are the kind of players we're always looking for, and some of that is hunches, right? And I mean, informed hunches. You're not doing this, you're not just throwing darts, but you're taking little bits of information and using your knowledge of a team, of how football works in general, the way the momentum and dynamics of a season play out. You know that somebody is going to win you. There's going to be league winners that nobody drafted every year. There is. It just happens. And so you have to be prepared to either adjust on those guys or get lucky on a prediction or two. And you can't get lucky if you don't try. Rob Linehan, 49ers have issues everywhere on offense and receivers hurt. Well, teams just load up to stop the run and hurt their running backs. Well, I think teams were loading up on the run last year. Because that's their MO right now, or was even last year. There were a couple games where they threw well. The Saints game, they threw exceptionally well. But beyond that, it was a little hit or miss, and it was like they didn't really trust Jimmy Garoppolo. And maybe they will more this year. But with their receivers beat up, that makes it more difficult. So defenses will try to take advantage of this for sure. By the way, if you didn't see it, I just put up a George Kittle update on the website. Shanahan's downplaying it. It's hamstring tightness, not a pull or anything like that, or a tear. So, no, nothing lowers Kittle's value.
Well,
not even a hamstring.
You also think if they're having trouble running and it's 3rd and 5, that Kittle's may get more targets because they're short, 5 to 8 yard passes where he excels as a tight end.
Yeah, I think, the thing with Kittle is, and you could sit here and make the argument, and I would not totally disagree with you, that, I mean, he could be better. You could draft him. If you drafted him ahead of Travis Kelce, I wouldn't think you're crazy. He's led the 49ers in receiving yards the past 2 seasons. 1,377 yards in 2018 was a single season record for receiving yards by tight end. So, look, I'm a big advocate of not drafting last year's best team, but I think Kittle is going to be as good as last year. If you look at, I'm just looking at the numbers too. Kittle missed the 2 games last year, but he still tied Kelce for the most fantasy points per game, 15.9 at the position, which is pretty damn good numbers for tight end. Finished 2nd in double-digit performances, fantasy-wise, 11. Only Kelce had more games with 20-plus points, and he led the NFL in receiving yards per route. So for tight ends, for sure. So look, I mean, there's a lot of the numbers here. He was only outside the top 20 in 1 game. So yeah, I'm all in on him. I think if it was going to hurt his numbers, it would have hurt him last year as well. Rob wants to know, will Phillip Rivers ever be the same or better than last year? I have used him in spots over the years. I think he'll have better pass protection, and he'll have some pretty good receivers and a really good rushing attack. I think he has a chance.
Well, he's certainly not who he used to be, but I really like the situation's good. Hopefully he can squeeze out another year or two. And like you said, with all the protection that he's got on the offensive line, and hopefully the running backs can block also, and good receivers, he could have a good year, and you can get him late.
Yeah, there's the key. With all his weapons, can Brady be a true number 1 quarterback? According to Bruce Arians today, yes. I guess he looked really good in the scrimmage today. But I think, Andrew, you nailed it there, all the weapons. And, and the other thing is Tom Brady seems to be very determined. And I know determination only gets you so far, and he's plus 40 years old, 43 years old. But, man, if anyone's going to do that on a new team under the circumstances of no offseason and just all all the things that would normally make me say no way, I'm not saying no way. Tom Brady's very good. I think he could be a true quarterback one for fantasy purposes. I mean, as well as NFL purposes. So, and I think his current ADP is starting, is pretty much reflecting that. I haven't looked at it for a couple days, but
he's sneaking up there, but he's still around 10 or 11. So you're going to have to take him.
He's latest fantasy calculator. He's 8th round, so he's quarterback 9.
That's not a horrible place to take a Tom Brady in this situation.
Just to follow up before I get to these other 2 questions, is Gronk a number 1 tight end? Probably not, but people are drafting him as that, and I will let them. So I'm not drafting him like that. I just don't like that range. I think if he got, I think the role is going to be great. It's going to be maybe a goal line role, but we'll see what Howard and Cameron Brate. I mean, he likes, even today I heard he's in love with Cameron Brate, and we've heard up to this point he's in love with O.J. Howard, and we've heard that Gronk is not in shape. I don't think any of that matters once the game's on the line. Tom Brady is throwing, 72, I want to say. 72, I think, touchdowns to Rob Gronkowski over the course of their combined career. So, if you drafted him as your tight end one, I would not fault you for that. Nor would I, and I think I'm looking at, maybe if you're thinking 50 catches, 500 yards, 5 or 6 TDs, I mean, that wouldn't shock me. All right, Timothy Miller wants to know, can Ebron be one of the league winners given Vance McDonald's injury history and Ben? Yes. Ebron, I mean, I'm loath to say the tight end's going to actually win you a league, but he surely is the kind of touchdown play. There's another wide receiver, though, that I talk about, a different guy going in, Chase Claypool, a 6'4", 200-plus pound guy who's really gaining a lot of traction in training camps. Might give them that kind of big body, but Ebron's a guy I've been drafting very late for the exact reasons you say, Timothy Miller. Yes. I say that, Todd, that's exactly why I said that. It's about the same as about 12 guys. Exactly. Who do you like better, Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson? I like Dak Prescott better. But honestly, that entire range of guys, Prescott, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, almost a little bit personal preference there.
Yeah, I like Prescott a little bit. He just had such a great year last year. But Wilson's a very creative guy.
Yeah, they added another playmaking weapon, so I think he's got a lot of pieces to like, and his mobility should not be overlooked. All right, guys, we got a few more minutes. I'm going to have to call it a day here soon to get ready to do radio stuff. But we appreciate you coming. We hope you hit the subscribe button. We hope you're subscribers at Football Diehards. If you're not, you can get that way. Go to the order page, use the promo code Diehards to get a 15% discount. If you're still not sure, well, use the footballdiehards.com/free trial to take a look around. What round for those quarterbacks? I'd say anywhere from wherever you feel comfortable, from the 4th, 5th, 6th, is where they're going for me. But, you can see them going to 7th. I think in last night's 2 quarterbacks, Superflex, we saw some of them going into like the 5th round even. So, and that's in a super flex. So I think that's a fair price. Also, we will be back tomorrow. Watch your emails for a special Saturday edition of this, minus me, but with Emil and John Laub doing a mock draft. And it might even be better. Well, it might be. Will probably be better without me. And go hit the website. Rankings being updated constantly, constant flow of news going up. We're heading into the season soon. The flash update will go live, and once the regular season hits, until then, it's the August update draft guide. So we have you covered. Configurable cheat sheets. Emil's amazing stomp tool that allows you to kind of put guys into the cheat sheet to move them up in the rankings where you want them. It's based on ADP, but kind of gives you that advantage. ADP, not really when you have to draft guys, but when guys are getting drafted, so you know when you have to move ahead to draft them. And the Stomp tool incorporates that into the cheat sheets. It's a great way to get the guys you want at a still reasonable price as you reach up a little bit. And we all say that, if you like a guy, reach up and get him. So hit that subscribe button. I didn't see everyone subscribed. That's going to be a problem. We appreciate we appreciate everything. We appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us, giving us the questions. We'll do this 5 days a week on the norm here. at least until the regular season. Then we'll reset and kind of figure out what the timing and what the schedule looks like. But we will be back here all season long, taking questions, talking fantasy football, having fun. And we hope you join us for all of that, and that you subscribe to the Football Diehards website. And I think we've got all the questions covered. And thank you all again for coming. We really appreciate it. And we will talk to you. Emil will talk to you tomorrow. I'll be back Mondays, 3 p.m. for Ask Us Anythings. Tuesday, 8 p.m. for mock drafts. Wednesday, 3 p.m. Friday, 3 p.m. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Mostly mock drafts in the nighttime, but with me spouting and answering questions. So you get the best of all the worlds, or some worlds, or at least something. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Emil, any last words?
Nope, that'll do her.
I didn't, not last words, but do you want to close it? It's not like you're.
No, I'm good. Good luck with your drafts. Thanks for all the comments. These are great questions and great comments. You guys are smart. Love it.